Bitcoin is doing something we've seen before. It's actually creating one of the most bullish patterns possible here. So let's talk about exactly that within today's update video. I do have a lot of important Bitcoin charts to discuss today, and we will also take a deep dive into the latest news, Ethereum, and somewhat of altcoins. So from there, guys, make sure to first of all subscribe to the channel and watch and like my latest YouTube videos. And from there, we can dive into the most important content. Bitcoin is doing something we've seen before, actually creating another major bull flag here on somewhat of the shorter time frame here, and now we have been nicely bouncing again to the upside, and that is looking super bullish here because first of all, history seems to be exactly repeating with yet another bull flag in the creation for Bitcoin here, and that's why I think also yet another breakout is coming for Bitcoin soon here. And of course, we have been bouncing away from the CME gap. We still haven't filled the CME gap yet. So you could see this as something bearish, but you could also see it as something bullish, since I found this quite interesting explanation of what the CME gap is and why this could be something very bullish. Just in summary, just in short here, typically but not always, the CME gaps tend to be filled, meaning that the price is going to get manipulated back to cover the gap. That's what usually happens. But now it seems like the manipulation wasn't strong enough. Buy pressure is actually too high to be filling up and manipulating that CME gap back to the downside. So that is going to be very bullish, and I do think the defense of the CME gap here was actually looking quite strong. Of course, if you're going to take a look in towards the bull flag pattern again, of course it could still be happening that yes, Bitcoin bounces, for example, back below in this bull flag towards these lows, and then you will ultimately still be filling up the partially or the full CME gap. So let's see about it, but I don't think it has to be necessary to fill up the CME gap, but we should be open for the opportunity that it could be happening in the near future here. But it's definitely looking quite interesting there. Also, we do know that Bitcoin is getting rejected from this second Fibonacci level, and I do think once Bitcoin is going to break through that 123,000 US dollar level, we could see the next big Bitcoin push higher towards, for example, the 140,000 US dollar price target. And I do think there's also a high likelihood that Bitcoin could be topping out in exactly that range, because we are nearing the end of the cycle, just like discussed in a lot of my previous YouTube videos. So also make sure to check those out, guys. And also, we've Bitcoin still exactly following the global liquidity here, which is still looking insanely bullish. And if you're going to take a look in towards the data shows that Bitcoin is for 83% directly correlated with the global liquidity. And that's an absolutely insane statistic if you would ask me so. So there's still a high likelihood that Bitcoin is going to be following this global liquidity all the way to the top side with an ultimate price target of 140,000 US dollars for now, which also quite directly corresponds with this Fibonacci level here. So definitely quite interesting there, but yes, I'm still expecting that last and major Bitcoin move to the top side here following the global liquidity there. Also, we still have the stablecoin supply absolutely exploding here, and that is also very bullish because it's yet another bullish catalyst for Bitcoin, because the more stablecoins, the more buy pressure there ultimately is in the market, and definitely once the sentiment turns even better, a lot of these stablecoins will be flying in towards Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, etc. And then let's discuss the latest news hitting the market here, and also what's going to be next for next week, because next week we have yet another FOMC meeting upcoming with another rate interest decision here. So that is going to be, of course, once again very big in the market, but the market isn't currently pricing in any new rate cuts. But yeah, let's see about it. Could still deliver a lot of volatility, of course, because we will also see another Powell speech. And talking about Powell, he did tell some of his associates that he will not be resigning here. So also that is important news, because we've seen a lot of rumors about Powell potentially resigning here, but for now it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case here. And guys, if you do want to be trading Bitcoin and altcoins yourself, make sure you do it on Bitunix over here. I've linked this platform below. under my latest YouTube video, on all my YouTube videos actually, because I do think Bitunix is definitely going to be the most beginner friendly platform to be trading on, because beginners can be claiming over $400 to start trading on Bitunix just by signing up, guys. So make sure to check that link out if you're getting interested in trading Bitcoin and altcoins yourself, and if you do want to be prepared for that next move up once Bitcoin is going to break outside of this bull flag, of course. And also Ethereum is looking quite good here, and let's discuss exactly that now, because yeah, Ethereum versus Bitcoin is performing insanely strong here. Actually, once Bitcoin started to moving down yesterday in this quite large move to the downside, Ethereum was actually holding very strong here. And that is a major bull signal for altcoins, of course. Ethereum versus Bitcoin has been breaking out, and this is going to be the major next resistance level, basically the local high for Ethereum versus Bitcoin. If you could be breaking that, then yet another Ethereum versus Bitcoin move could be next here. And the potential is still absolutely massive here. Because if you take a look on the bigger time frame for Ethereum versus Bitcoin, you can simply see how much potential there's still left for Ethereum versus Bitcoin to the top side. Of course, you should be looking in towards diminishing returns, but still the potential is absolutely massive here, and we haven't even seen that much yet. So I'm still very bullish on Ethereum here. I will be taking some of my profits at that conservative case target, guys, because that's the target I did set for myself, where I was accumulating on the way down here, this ultimate low, this range low retest. Yes, the conservative case is going to be the target where I will be taking some profits of my spot position, because from there I did make over a 2x on most of my holdings, so that's quite an insane return for Ethereum if you would ask me. And from there I'm going to start looking in towards rotating more of those profits in towards altcoins. But yes, that conservative case is going to be a huge target for me personally. But if you are a little bit more bullish, you could also be looking in towards this bull case, because I do think there's also still a high likelihood of Ethereum hitting new all-time highs, for example over $6,000. But for me, the risk to reward ratio from, for example, $4,000 isn't worth it, because I did make over 2x already here, and then to $6,000 it's like a 1.5x or something. So the risk reward isn't that good for me then. But I must say, if you're going to break that range high level, that $4,000 level, I could be looking in towards, for of course, opening a leveraged position to the top side here to that bull case target. But that's going to depend on how the situation is going to be looking like once breaking that $4,000 target, once breaking exactly that $4,000 target. So let's see how it's going to play out, but that's exactly my game plan for Ethereum here. We also have the Bitcoin dominance dumping back towards the downside after a slight move higher where it wasn't looking too good for altcoins, but then Ethereum started to perform quite strongly, just like discussed earlier, and now the Bitcoin dominance is coming back to the downside, so that is looking super bullish for altcoins. Also, I do think Ethereum is definitely not overheated yet, because if you take a look into towards the funding rates, we haven't seen such a big spike in those funding rates yet, and the previous times we did attack basically that range high in the move towards that $4,000 target. We always saw massive spikes in the funding rates, and we haven't seen something like that yet here. So Ethereum is definitely not overheated yet. And if you take a look into towards altcoins, and you can take a look into towards a lot of different keywords in towards Google Trends, altcoins, altcoin season, different narratives, a lot of the Google interest is spiking now. Also for stablecoins here. So that's just another indication for me that retail is slowly returning to the markets. And once they're truly going to inject their capital in the markets, I do think there's huge potential for a lot of altcoins. But that's currently not happening for most altcoins yet. But yeah, let's see about that. I do think it's looking very bullish. And we also do have this very interesting chart. You probably have seen it because it was all over Twitter basically. And this Ethereum shorts chart is clearly showing that the big institutions are now closing their Ethereum short position. Maybe some got liquidated, maybe not, but they are slowly closing their Ethereum short positions from basically this record points. So that is also looking quite bullish. I do think a lot more shorts are going to get closed in like the next upcoming months because Ethereum is looking very bullish in my opinion. And guys, that was it for today's update video. I hope you guys enjoyed today's update video, and I will see you guys within the next update video tomorrow.